Hey everybody out there on YouTube, this is Story Dude and we are here to read. That's our creed. Let's dive right in and see what people are talking about on the internet today. Am I the a-hole for dumping my sister's toddler onto our parents and refusing to babysit? Am I, Leah, 26, non-binary, they/them, have a sister, Risa, 30, female, who has a 2-year-old kid, 2, male, with her husband, Chris, 34M. Sorry, there's too many. Something I wonder about in all these stories is, do we really need to know people's age and gender that often? I guess it's a convention, but I don't know if I should read these things. It feels weird reading them, and then I'm making assumptions. I'm like, it's a woman, because I feel like I don't like saying female. I think that sounds like degrading somehow. But then I slip up because it's like a 15-year-old, and I say a 15-year-old woman, and then I bite my tongue, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, guys, I'm high on cough medicine. I'm going to stop talking and get back to the story here. I adore my nephew. I live apart from my family, but in the same city, so I visit every other weekend / whenever my schedule allows. I have babysat my nephew before, usually weekends, always in my sister's home. The other day, my sister messaged me that she, brother-in-law, and kid were on the way to my apartment. A bit out of the blue, but maybe they're headed somewhere and stopping by to say hi. However, when I answered my door, my sister began hurriedly explaining that they need someone to watch the kid while they go to their doctor's appointments, and I'm their quote-unquote only option. Problems. I'm self-employed, work from home, but juggle 3 clients / jobs with time-sensitive deadlines. I have ADHD, so I hyperfocus, meaning I might not notice something wrong with my nephew if I'm working. My tiny apartment is not childproof in any way. And fourth, I'm just starting to recover from an infection. My sister knows all of this. I try to explain that I can't watch the kid. My sister overrides me in saying our brother is teaching and our retired parents specifically requested time off from helping with their grandchild. Sister plus brother-in-law really need to get to the hospital, so they need me to do this. After a firm thank you, they leave. Attempt not to panic failed successfully. I send my sister several messages, like any alternatives, and she replies again that she's really sorry, but I'm their best option. It's only 6 hours at most, and she'll make it up to me. I text my mom, and after a while, she replies saying she and my dad need a break from watching the kid, so they'll be taking the afternoon to catch up on Netflix. I don't text my brother because I know he's in class. No permission from sister daycare, plus scared to leave a 2-year-old in daycare anyway. So I booked a taxi and went over to my parents' place. They were not happy when I showed up with a nephew, but I said I had to work, I was still sick, and their house is much better equipped for a 2-year-old than my place. My mom sort of made a face and huffed, but took my nephew. I went back home to work. Later in the day, my sister sends a barrage. Okay, I'm going to go with barrage. A barrage of texts scolding me for being, quote-unquote, irresponsible with her child and inconveniencing my parents. For her, I could have made the sacrifice for just a few hours, and it was an a-hole move to do what I did. Her husband also sent a text that he was disappointed with how I handled the situation and expected better of me. Then my mom sent several texts saying that they're angry with me for ruining their day because they'd specifically said they didn't want to watch my nephew. To me, I had enough justification not to babysit my nephew, but my family's labeling me as the a-hole for their actions. Was I wrong to decide how I did? Am I the a-hole for dumping my nephew on my parents? No, OP, you are not. You don't need to apologize to anyone. This was not an emergency. Your sister knew exactly what she was doing. Your parents are likely upset because she's been abusing their help, while they are understandably upset. They should be upset with your sister, not you, not your child, not your responsibility, not the a-hole. I like what this commenter said because I was suspecting that too. There was not like a lot of detail about this supposed emergency, going to the hospital, whatever. Like, you can totally take a kid to the hospital. There are 2 parents. Both parents don't need to be talking to the doctor at the same time. And one parent simply takes care of the baby while the other parent does the doctor stuff. It's not complicated. They're totally just messing with you. Not the a-hole. Poor planning and extreme entitlement on their part does not mean you should drop everything and serve them. I hope you don't apologize nor pay heed to your sister or your parents. If they wish to have you babysit, they need to tell you beforehand and accept the answer might be no. You are not the a-hole. Your sister and brother-in-law are the a-holes, the type who think family excuses all sorts of boundary-violating behavior. You had a valid reason for not watching your nephew, but guess what? You don't need a reason other than I don't want to. The phrase, that doesn't work for me, is vague and impersonal enough to hopefully not start a war with someone who is reasonable. With someone who isn't reasonable, it doesn't give them a toehold to argue why your reason isn't valid to them. Alternatively, just stop answering the phone or door if they're honestly dumb enough to leave their child outside your door. They deserve to have CPS called on them. I don't know if I agree with anything I just read. I don't know if I understood anything I just read. I don't know if I should not just be in bed right now. The hypocrisy for accusing you of doing the very things that they are doing is astonishing. The entitlement of your time and space and to lay responsibility at your feet for watching a baby is maddening. You did the right thing. I get that stuff happens and parents have emergencies, but that doesn't entitle them to bully their way into your apartment and give you a babysitting job with no notice and no room for you to say no. You are not the a-hole, OP. Yeah, there's pretty much no doubt about this. You're not the a-hole. Next time your sister tries to drop off her kid without asking you, tell her you're going to call the police. She's bullying you into free childcare without your consent. Time to grow a pair and put your foot down. I don't know. Don't listen to that comment. Don't call the police. What is that? And this sounds like this person did call the police. Why is everyone calling the police? Am I the a-hole for getting a car towed just a few minutes after it parked in my mom's parking spot? I am a 19-year-old male, and I live with my parents in a small neighborhood with a few condos attached to the row I'm in. We rent out 2 spots for both of our vehicles. One day, as my dad was at work and mom was out grocery shopping, I saw a guy parking his car in our spot. I waited a bit. Maybe he was just making a 1-minute pit stop, but he was still away after about 5 minutes. And there were a few visitor parking spots available, so I was baffled why he decided to steal ours. I decided to call for a tow truck, and then they came about 3-4 minutes later. I live near a tow truck lot. As the tow truck driver was hooking the car up, the guy came out and saw it. He immediately got into an argument with the tow truck driver and was saying like, hey, it's only 10 minutes. My mom got home about half an hour later, and I forgot to mention to her what happened. But 10 minutes after she returned, the guy that stole our spot came to our house and argued with me and my mom, saying he was only going to be there for 5 more minutes. It got heated, but he eventually walked away, still pissed off. Not the a-hole. Obviously, they knew it was a designated parking spot that belonged to your household, or else they wouldn't have come to your door. Yeah. I guess I'm just so passive. I would never call the tow truck on anyone. They'd have to be parked there for like hours before I'd get up the nerve to call a tow truck. But yeah, you're not the a-hole. You couldn't know if he was going to be there for 5 minutes or 5 hours. It wasn't his spot, and he had no right to park there for any length of time. Yeah, I mean, it was your property, and you defended it, OP. Good for you. You're not the a-hole. It's always only going to be 10 minutes, and then they're going to move it in 5 minutes. That's up there with the check being in the mail for most overplayed lies on the planet. There were alternative visitor spots available. He chose to park in a reserved one, which even if the visitor spots were all filled, he shouldn't park in a reserved spot. If you choose to park where your parking can result in you getting ticketed and or towed, you have only yourself to blame for it. All right, I want to talk about myself. All right, so I live in an apartment building where there are reserved spots, and I do not have one. And the reserved spots are farther away from the entrance than the non-reserved spots. So like the non-reserved spots are closer to the door, which means that the people who have enough money to buy the reserved spots, they're pretty expensive, they actually tend to park in the non-reserved spots close to the door, and they take up all the spots. And so then sometimes I'm like, I've parked in the reserved spots, and then I get, angry messages on my car and whatnot. But anyway, it just really grinds my gears, so to speak, because everyone who has paid for a spot is like so entitled that they take up the free spots just because they're closer to the door. And that puts me and my wife and like other, plebeians in this horrible situation. And what I love about the United States of America is that, money talks. If you buy a reserved spot, it's going to be closer to the entrance, and then all the poor people can park away and far away, and that's great. I don't. Anyway, that's my story. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been Story Dude Productions. You're not the a-hole. What are we talking about? Assuming the spot was clearly marked as reserved, whoever parks there without permission does so at their own risk. Absolutely. Glad you called the police, OP. You're not the a-hole. The guy who parked in your spot was the a-hole. How could you know how long he was going to be there? Aren't there visitor spots? Oh, yeah. So that was that. That was me. And I want to go back to what I was commenting on in the intro, because it is something that, trips me up every time. Let me know in the comments, is it useful for you if I specify the age, sex, gender of the characters in the story? Does it help you understand? Because I wonder about it each time. Each time these thoughts are going through my head while I'm reading, and I just don't know the answer. So help me out. All right, this has been Story Dude. Appreciate your being here with us. We love it. We love you. We love everybody. We got to stop talking. I got to just stop.